been here before, but just for the record and for those online, we have the meeting both in person as well as online. At this point, we have a call to the public for any items that are not on the agenda. So is there anybody in the room that would like to come up and address anything that is not on the agenda tonight? None? Anybody online that would like to address the board for anything that is not on the agenda tonight? Seeing none, I will close public comment. We'll move into unfinished business. With unfinished business, I will read the application into the record, explain what is being sought after in terms of a variance. If the applicant at that point will come up to the lectern, introduce yourself, give us your address, and then just explain the application and why we're here tonight. I will ask that both the applicant and anybody else that is going to speak tonight, if you could sign in on the sign-up sheet at the door so that when we write the minutes that we got your name spelled correctly and your address. So with that, I'll open up unfinished business, case number 23-001, Kelly Bills, petitioner, requesting a variance from section 5.11C in order to permit chickens on a 1.17 acre parcel, which is under 3 acres at 4890 East Princeton Avenue, which is an R1A single-family residential district. This was before the zoning board before, and it was postponed at the January 4th meeting. Ms. Bills? You're here. Thank you. Good evening. Again, if you could introduce us, give your address, and then let us know, maybe refresh us where we were and where we are tonight.
My name is Kelly Bills, and I live at 4890 East Princeton Avenue, and I was seeking a variance for my chickens.
Okay, so reading the minutes and reading the original application, chickens are permitted in Independence Township on parcels of land that are 3 acres or greater.
Mm-hmm.
We have an existing ordinance that states this. You have chickens, and you have a parcel that is 1.17 acres, therefore less than 3 acres, and so you're seeking a variance to allow chickens within on your property and within your neighborhood. The zoning board had deliberation. Our minutes are in our packets tonight and therefore online. We talked about the zoning board's role in terms of interpreting the ordinance and looking for specific hardship, other unusual circumstances for a particular piece of property, and why perhaps a variance or a deviation from our ordinance would be appropriate for that point. We had a lengthy discussion. There were neighbors at the last meeting. You've presented petitions, and it looks like some additional petitions, so appreciate that. The last meeting ended with a postponement to a meeting in the future, that is tonight, and at that point we were going to, or the Planning Commission was going to consider looking at the ordinance. And so what I'll do in a minute is first ask Brian if we've had any additional correspondence, and then I'll open it up to our Planning Commission representative to give us an update from there, and then we'll take it from there.
Okay.
Is there anything else before we do that you'd like to add?
I don't think so, no.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
I haven't had any additional correspondence. I did get Ms. Bills that she sent in some more petitions, so that's what's in front of you tonight.
Great.
In terms of the Planning Commission and possibly reviewing this ordinance, it is gonna be on next week's agenda for possible review. It's up to them if they decide to, make any changes. So we'll just have to see how that goes, but it's a pretty lengthy process to change the ordinance, so, but anyway, I just wanted to give you that update.
Okay, thank you.
It's a scheduled agenda item. Appreciate that. Thank you, Brian. Brian, can I start with you and give us an update? Was it discussed at the last meeting, or is it just a future agenda item?
Yeah, I think it was briefly discussed toward the end of the meeting. We were going over a few other ordinance changes in that meeting, and it was brought up during discussion at the end, and kind of the consensus of the commission was put the wording of the ordinance in our next packet, and we'll talk about it at the meeting. That being said, I appreciate your family's tenacity at this. You guys are sticking to it, and I think I personally sympathize with the situation. You know, I think the planning commission and the township board is the proper venue for it. If we were to approve this, essentially, we open it up to every single parcel, 1 acre and above in the whole township. So just, without the wording of the ordinance and, you know, in my opinion, just essentially the ZBA creating a new ordinance, you know, I don't appreciate it when the federal government does that, and, you know, that's a little bit of a bridge too far for me on the ZBA, so that's all I have.
Appreciate it, thank you. Alan, you want to start at this end?
Well, like I said last time in January, you know, I don't see any practical difficulty. I don't see a hardship. It's a self-imposed hardship, you might say, because they didn't check with the ordinance prior to obtaining the chickens. So, and I agree with what Brian just said. It's a long and lengthy process to change our zoning, because it has to go through public hearings and everything else through the planning commission. It has to go to township board, be read there twice or whatever it has to be. So you're looking at probably, if any ordinance was ever changed, 9 months probably.
Right.
So that's where I'm at.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Sherrill?
I agree with Mr. Auger, and I certainly am sympathetic to the petitioner. I think on the surface, it's a good idea, but an ordinance is an ordinance. And I wouldn't want to be sitting up here and see what could happen, because if I had to guess, there's probably 1,000 lots in Independence Township that are an acre or better. And I think it has to be handled in a different way.
Thank you, Jim. Mr. Zurich?
I really have nothing to add, but just I really appreciate the family coming out and maybe understanding the process. It's hard to get things done sometimes, and I think it's a good experience. So thanks, you know, for making it a family affair.
Thank you, Ken. I guess speaking for myself as one of the members of the zoning board, but also as the chairman in terms of at least what I interpret the zoning board's obligation to be. And I think first and foremost, this board is created really to uphold and to really understand the township ordinance, not to look for ways around it or through it. And so a zoning board typically is here to understand and support and to a certain extent defend perhaps the township's ordinance. But there are really very real cases throughout this township in which variations or variances or deviations from the ordinance are applicable, and there's a certain criteria that we go through, as Mr. Auger pointed out, where they are a true hardship to that specific piece of property, that it's not a self-created circumstance. You know, examples of that might be a large wetland on a property forces a building to be in a specific location where typically by ordinance it should be in one location, but the wetland causes it to want to move to another, just as an example. So I also certainly appreciate the family and understand what the you know, the animals are always parts of family, and I don't lose sight of that. But I don't see a particular hardship here as well that's unique to this property or that couldn't be solved, you know, on a 3-acre piece of property anywhere else in the township. So I do think that it's a good idea that it's on the planning commission. We'll see where they go. There's certainly a lot to be considered when changing any ordinance, and I'm sure the planning commission, then ultimately the board will consider that. But I agree, I don't believe it's a zoning board issue. So,
Okay.
with that, if there's anything else that you'd like to say, I guess I will open it up to the public one more time. Is there anybody in the public that would like to speak, including your family, on this particular issue? No? Is there anybody online who would like to speak on this application? Hearing none, I'll bring it back to the board for consideration.
Well, being the longest-term member on the board, I'll make a motion. Case 23-001 to deny the request. I'm sorry.
And you're denying the request for which?
Because I see no practical difficulty or hardship in this case.
Okay.
I'll support.
We have a motion, we have support. Brian, can we have roll call, please?
Mr. Auger,
Yes.
Mr. Epping,
Yes.
Mr. Galley,
Yes.
Mr. Sharrow,
Yes.
and Mr. Zurich.
Yes.
Thank you, Brian. And you had said that it is on the planning commission agenda, and that's next Thursday?
Next Thursday, yeah.
Okay. So that's the next route to go to the people that do have the ability to craft the ordinance. So, appreciate it, thank you. We will move on. We have no new business. We have our minutes from the January 4th were in our packet. Everybody had a chance to review those. If so, we can move to accept those.
I'll make a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of January 4th, 2023, as submitted.
We have a motion, do we have support?
I'll support Alan's motion.
Let's give Brian just a minute and we'll have a voice vote. Brian, we had a motion and support to approve the minutes of January 4th. If we could just have a
You can
show of
just-
support.
Yeah, just, you can do it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are accepted. At this point, very brief meeting, perhaps a world record. We're at the discussion, our meeting is still open. Is there any discussion for the board or anything additional we should be considering?
No, I just think that this was a hard, difficult case, but I think, as stated by everybody, it's out of zoning board of appeals. This needs to go through the proper channels to come to the township. I think it was held very well.
It's part of living in a good community, right? It's a small community, and everybody is invested, and I guess our role is essentially volunteers to work among our neighbors and peers, and so it's important to look objectively, and not every decision is easy because they're all personal, right?
And I'd like to personally thank Brian. I caught the township trustees meeting where he made an excellent presentation on what his job is and what it entails, not only for our board, but assessing all the departments, what he does to keep the township running. Just want to thank you, Brian.
It's impressive, yes, thank you.
I just have one item, and he's actually online right now. Bill Scarborough, he's our new alternate.
Oh.
He's been wanting to get involved from the east side, but he's moved to the community, and we appointed him as alternate. So now we have somebody to, in case you're gone, we can fill the seat. So
Excellent, great. Now, I know Bill, and I know he's got an awful lot of experience, and
Yeah.
he's been an active neighbor, so that's great.
yeah, he has a ton of experience both on planning commission and ZBA. So it'll be good to have him on board.
Fantastic.
If I remember something on the minutes, should I just forget about it?
What? Something was incorrect?
Well, Alan moved to deny the case at the last meeting.
Yeah.
And I suggested that the denial be held off until the planning commission has time to react to this information. But then there's nothing, excuse
Yeah,
me,
I
Board
pulled-
Member Auger rescinded his motion.
Yeah.
I
That's
stand corrected. I didn't see that when I read it the last time.
That's why I read them 5 times, Jim.
Yeah, right. No, my mistake.
Good eyes, though.
Thank you.
I make a motion to adjourn at 6:15.
Did you have something else,
Oh.
Ken?
Well, it's a little bit
I take that motion back.
not required for the record, but Big B Coffee is kind of a dead issue. I noticed maybe Big B's going farther down south on Dixie, or,
I got that, I got a text about that a couple of days ago. It's, as far as I know, they're proceeding forward. The doctors still own it and have invested a lot of money into it, so.
At the current location?
At the location at
Deer
Deer
Lake.
Lake
Deer Lake.
Road and
Yeah.
Dixie. So as far as we know, it's still moving forward. I know people are seeing things pop up in other communities and asking, well, what about ours, and it's, as far as I know, it's happening.
Well, I think Wilhelm's sign still being on the property,
He has no involvement in
I
that.
know, but I mean, being there, it's kind of,
Deceiving.
Yeah.
anybody that's familiar
Wilhelm-
with it.
Yeah, Tom Wilhelm doesn't seem to remove any of his signs when he has properties that he markets, so, or formally markets.
It's advertising.
Yeah,
That's
it
right.
is, exactly.
That's right.
I'll do it again. I'll make a motion to adjourn at 6:17.
We have a motion, I support. All in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen, we are adjourned.